Hi, I'm Merrick-Moore, 5th grade. Good to see you here again on Talk It Out Tuesday. I hope you had a great week. I'm amazed at the work that you all have done on Google Classroom. Excited to share with you the deets on our peeps. This week we're going to talk about the highlights to your opinion writing. So if we were in class together and we had writer's workshop, we would celebrate our writing at the end of workshop, and you would each share out where you were in the writing process, and once you have a final product, then we celebrate that. Since we're not all together, today I'm going to take the opportunity to just share the growth that I'm seeing in you, and maybe you can learn a thing or two from your friends. And then we're going to learn how to read like a writer as we learn how to navigate nonfiction reading, which is the majority of the kind of reading that we do in life. So today, all the deets on our peeps. Outstanding opinion writers: Amaya, Ayana, Javon, Yayana, Trinity, Ariana, Tanaya. Fantastic work that you submitted this week. Some of the examples that I have come from a couple of you. Top Lexia students: Noah, Patience, Joelle, Imani, Carla. You guys are staying dedicated to that and using it to continue to grow as readers. Our feats of greatness. What are you guys out there accomplishing, and how are you spending this time right now? Ariana is playing games with her family and learning French, which she said is hard. I bet it is hard. Javon learned how to make pancakes. Julianne is reading a book with her older brother, and they were building a tree swing when I was FaceTiming with her the other day. It was pretty awesome. Delilah continues to research zodiac signs. Delilah, I would love to see an article from you teaching your friends about the zodiac signs. Last week on Talk It Out Tuesday, you had the assignment of writing your opinion about social distancing, and we had to wait until we got the information from our experts so that you could use some of that in your writing. So this was the job that you were tasked with. Use the experience and the facts that you've learned about coronavirus from lessons and articles from Dr. Moynihan's answers to your questions to support your thinking. Remember to include both sides of the argument. And then I gave you some support here with language, right? How does this sound in writing? And you used this language, and you'll see that in the examples today. And then what kind of phrases do we use when we transition from one idea to another to signal to our reader that maybe a new idea is coming or you're adding on to it? So our first example of excellent writing. I understand that staying at home is boring, but on the other hand, which is a fantastic way of presenting another person's point of view, staying at home is helping save lives. Like Dr. M said, if you don't spread COVID-19, then you're saving lives behind you. Why is this one being pointed out? This is a perfect example, friends, of how we use another point of view, right? We're acknowledging somebody else's ideas, and at the same time, how we're supporting our opinion with facts we learned from an expert. And that makes you more credible and believable. So we want to always think about that when we're trying to convince somebody of our point of view. We need to be able to give them facts from a credible source or somebody reliable. Our next celebration of writing is this one. I think that the whole social distancing thing is too much. If everyone just washed their hands like normal, then y'all wouldn't have to worry about the coronavirus. For example, wash your hands. Keep your hands, feet, and other objects out of your mouth. Here, the writer did a great job of using the transitional phrase, for example, signaling to us that they're going to help you understand exactly what they're talking about when they say, wash, keep clean. If you've not submitted your opinion writing yet, don't worry about it. You can still submit it, there's time. Today what we're going to talk about is text structure. Text structure, what is that and why does it matter? The word structure itself is how something is built. And when we think about text or writing, it's important that we think about how writing is built, because readers recognize structure and then they know how to follow along to understand the main idea and details. If you look carefully at these pictures, you'll see these are each different structures, but they're built very differently because they serve a different purpose. Writers do the same thing in their writing. They put their writing together because their ideas are meant to serve different purposes. For example, Sometimes a writer wants to teach you about the cause and effect of something. They might want to teach you about a problem and a solution to that problem. They might want to present questions to you and then give you long answers, and then they give you another question, another long answer. Sometimes a writer wants to teach you about an idea, but they have to compare and contrast so you can see the similarities about things and the differences. Sometimes it's a chronological order. Chrono is time. We learned that when we did our biography projects. Sometimes it's a description. And why does any of this matter? Because as a reader, we need to be able to look at text and think the way a writer thinks. Think back to our Black History project when we did biography writing. I want you to think like a writer now. How was all that information put together when you did your writing? The structure of it was chronological order or time order, and that was important because we were trying to teach people about the lifetime of someone famous. So we would put it in chronological order. What was said first? Think about how you drew your reader in. Remember, every piece of writing, that's your one opportunity to get your reader hooked in. What did you do for that? And when you're reading, I want you to pay attention to how writers draw you in from the very start. What did you want readers to understand? Those were the main ideas and the details that you presented. So when you think about the famous person that you researched, what was really important for the reader or the listener to understand about that person? Was it a lifetime of overcoming adversity or difficulties? Was it a lifetime of charitable work? What was the big idea that you wanted readers to take away from your work? And then what special words were used? That's the vocabulary related to that historical figure. So if we think about Muhammad Ali, there were terms used about boxing that you needed to understand. When we think about basketball, we needed to teach our readers terms that related to basketball. So there's vocabulary for every big idea. So what we're going to learn how to do is read nonfiction like a writer, which is different than I think we've learned how to do it in the past. Once kids learn how to read like a writer, it's so much easier to understand everything. Then you're not just saying the words on the page, you're really thinking about how did this writer, like me, put this information together. So as I read today, I'm going to model for you. How's the information put together? What are the parts of text? What is the structure the writer used? This is all that I think of when I'm reading. The next idea I think of is, what does the writer want me to understand here? What is their main idea? And then what details did they give to back up their main idea? The next thing, what was said first? What was the hook, or what was the really important idea that the writer started out with? And then I'm going to think about what special words did the writer use, because there's always vocabulary in writing that we don't know, and we have to try to figure out what it means. So we're going to look for that too. And that's just
Social distancing advice from astronauts, experts in isolation during coronavirus. Already I'm looking at that word isolation as a word that might be new for a lot of people, but my thinking when I think about structure, I see the word advice. And I know advice is something we give to people when they have a problem. So already I can predict that this is probably going to be a problem and solution structure. Let me read and find out. Astronauts don't get out much, or can't. Before living for months in space, Christina Koch lived at the South Pole. Chris Hadfield lived below the ocean in a laboratory off the coast of Florida. Koch was surrounded by frozen land. Hatfield was 62 feet underwater. The experiences proved useful. When they rocketed out into the International Space Station, ISS, on separate months-long missions in different years, their brains were well acquainted with being isolated. So again, in my thinking, that's the direction that the writer is going, that there was a problem and they were equipped to solve this problem. Koch returned to Earth from her 328-day mission on the space station in February. She broke the record for the longest spaceflight by a woman. Hadfield spent more than 5 months on the ISS from 2012 to 2013. It feels like living in the basement of a large building for a long time, Hadfield said. They work each day with the same small group of people with no way to leave. Their workspace is their living space. They see people they love only through video chats. Again, my thinking goes back to what we're experiencing now, and I'm making that connection that this is a problem. And I'm anticipating, as I look through the article and the headings, that they're going to offer a solution. Now, the spread of coronavirus has sent millions of people into a similar situation. The coronavirus is a flu-like illness and has been spreading around the world since December 2019. Health officials have been encouraging social distancing. This means that staying at home and staying away from other people helps slow the spread of the virus. Astronauts might be some of the most qualified people to offer advice about how to live in a limited world. In my thinking as a reader, I'm telling myself, hey, that's prior knowledge that I have, and that helps me better understand what the writer is talking about. So as a reader, remember I talked to you about how you're thinking while you're reading. You're constantly asking questions, making connections so that you're staying engaged with the text. I know for sure now that this is a problem and solution structure. So now I'm going to start looking for the solution that they're going to offer. The next heading is Pretend You Live on a New Planet. The situations are similar because there's a big danger out there. That is not clearly defined, said Hadfield, age 60. He's a retired Canadian astronaut who was the commander of a space station in 2003. He said, it's unclear and frightening, and operating a rocket ship is very much like that. There's a constant elevated level of danger. It's sort of nameless and quiet. Hadfield and Koch are among the several astronauts offering self-quarantine tips. At least 175 million people across the United States have been urged to stay home. The key is to leave behind a life ruled by outside demands, Hadfield said. It's important to trade a daily schedule built around going places for a life of going almost nowhere except for a walk. Koch suggested looking at it as if it were a new planet to explore. There will be things that you can do that you've never done before. There'll be things you can't do, said Koch, 41 years old. But we're almost like a new group of people now, operating within a completely different set of rules and under a completely different normal. What are the things people can do on this new planet?
Okay, now it's your turn to read. So your job now is to go into our Google Classroom, read the rest of this article, and you'll see an assignment in there for you to do a written response. Your written response is going to be you telling what the main idea of the article was, and how did the writer explain that to you? What details did the writer give you to support that main idea? The third thing I want you to do is share your advice for your friends and for teachers about how you're spending your time and what you can do to not feel so isolated or alone during this time. A lot of you expressed that you're having a hard time not being with your friends and you're really missing school, which, can I just tell you something, to every teacher is like music to our ears, okay? It really is. We miss you too. But we want to know, how are you spending your time and what advice can you give your friends about all of the exciting things that you're doing to stay connected with one another. Until next week, friends, we'll see you.